Well, I was wrong. I now stand corrected. A few weeks ago, I made a video and stated, well, I might have even bragged that Sarasota has never been directly hit by a hurricane. But on October 9th, that all changed. As most of you know, a Category 3 hurricane made landfall that night on Siesta Key and Longboat Key. Those are our barrier islands. And it moved through downtown and right through Sarasota. Yes, there was a lot of damage, but there was also a lot of things that went right. And the day after, I felt pretty blessed as a combination of good choices and good preparation made a big difference that day. So in this video, I'm going to show you what went right and what went wrong. And stick with me until the end, as I'm going to show you a quick video that I took on my back porch right in the middle of the hurricane. You might be surprised how all that turned out. So let's take a quick look and see how Sarasota survived a direct hit from a hurricane. Well, the good news is the beaches are back open and we'll slowly be getting back to normal. So if you want to stay updated on what's happening here in Sarasota and the surrounding area, make sure you subscribe and tap that notification bell. This way you'll be the first to learn about all the new videos and you'll be able to find out what's happening here in the Sarasota market. Hi, I'm Rob Rovnak and I've lived in the area for over 30 years. So if you're thinking of moving to Sarasota or around Sarasota, whether it's in 1 week or 1 year, reach out to us today so we can help you make a smooth move. Now, if you look back to the video that I premiered on October 10th, the very next day after Hurricane Milton made landfall right there on Siesta Key in Sarasota. And if you want, just go back and check that out and watch it. It's called Sarasota versus Hurricanes, and there's a ton of good information in there. So everything I went over about preparing for a hurricane came true, and they were very essential. The emergency kit, loading up on supplies before season, having a multi-fuel reliable generator, and securing your home through the variety of shutters from metal to hard plastic and windscreens. They all worked like a charm. So as I mentioned, my house has a barrel tile roof and not one tile moved. I had no damage to my home, and the only thing that I had were a few PVC fence panels that were out of place, and I put those back together the very next day. Fortunately, no tree damage, just had to rake the yard for a few tiny branches, so being a little bit inland really made a difference. So let's go over where the real damage took place. As we've said before, run from the water, hide from the wind. So here in the red, you can see what they call the A evacuation zones. The barrier islands in the bayfront, along with some small inland creeks and waterways. So where I live just east of I-75, that fared pretty well. Mainly you'll see some roof tiles missing and on some older roofs or tree damage, as the roadways are right now dotted with tree debris that the residents put out for removal. And we'll go into that in a minute. But the closer you get to the coast, the worse you may find. Now downtown held up fairly well, but there were some poles, light poles that were damaged and some windows that were knocked out that weren't boarded up. But overall, I was very surprised how well downtown looked and how quickly they had cleaned up. On a relaxing Sunday afternoon, there were a number of businesses and restaurants open and people strolling the sidewalks. And even the local St. Armand Circle favorite, the Columbia restaurant, had a full crowd, as I believe many folks will rush back to support these local establishments. So how will this affect Sarasota and Florida in general going forward? Well, Florida has the most stringent hurricane building codes in the entire country. And a few areas in Alabama and Mississippi that have adopted them have had great success in recent hurricanes. And I'm pretty positive that this will make builders even more conscious in their efforts to build a home that can really sustain some high winds. And often this leads to innovation, and I feel it might change some of the basic building dynamics. We'll see. Right now where I live and with the home I'm in, I have to say I feel perfectly comfortable in a Category 3 hurricane, which is the standard for new construction. Now, will builders up their game and up their standards to design something for a Category 5? Now, some will, and there are already some in existence, but I'm assuming that most won't. So be choosy on the neighborhoods that you pick, and we can direct you on that. We've been pretty fortunate for 100 years, but maybe we won't see another direct landfall for another 100 years. Or maybe we'll see one the very next year. It's really impossible to predict, but we can base the probability as less likely due to our normal weather patterns, our geographic area, and what history tells us. Now, I must say, this state is equipped like none other that I've ever lived in, starting with the utilities. A large amount of the power companies have their lines buried underground, and those areas that aren't, they're in constant state of maintenance. FPL, which is Florida Power and Light, that's the state's largest energy company, along with smaller power companies, diligently inspect and replace poles each year, and they're constantly pruning or removing trees that may cause hazards. So here's an example. Now the hurricane made landfall just after 7 p.m., and my power went out around 7:30, and it was back on by 11 a.m. the next morning. So no food was lost, no real inconvenience. I also own 2 rentals, both about 4 to 5 miles closer to the coast, and their power was back on at midnight, right in the middle of the storm. Now the power company sets goals, and they set a goal that the majority of residents should have power restored in 72 hours. And I have a brother who lives right on the coast in Palmetto, and his was back on in 5 days. Now, contrast that with the state of North Carolina. I know they're 2 different scenarios, but it took my relatives there, who suffered no damage, over 2 weeks to regain power. The state and local government truly do come together and mobilize here. I've seen it for years after storms, and they'll have most places looking back to normal in the next few weeks or months, but for some areas and some homes, the rebuild may take a few years, and in some cases, I question whether they should be rebuilt in precarious areas or ones that seem to be susceptible to being flooded again. So in my previous hurricane video, I told you about a little known trick on where to install some essential screening that really makes a difference. And I learned this accidentally by observing some damage there at a hurricane 20 years ago. And I want to show you how well it worked. And I recorded a video right in the middle of Hurricane Milton, standing on my back porch lanai. So here we are, October 9th. Uncle Milty's right behind me. The Hurricane Milton is just reaching landfall. It's about 7 o'clock here at night. Sun's just going down. It's supposed to be hitting right now, making landfall here in Sarasota. I'm standing in my lanai behind my screen. You notice there's no wind whatsoever. I don't know if you can hear the storm, but behind these screens, it's blowing like crazy. But these hurricane screens make a world of difference, folks. I told you, this is what you got to get. All right, signing off. Now another lasting effect, and we'll see how it plays out, is insurance. I believe insurers will be even more diligent on their criteria that they use to insure a home, such as age of home, roof, and specifically location. Gone are the days of reasonably insuring an old bungalow near the beach. And lastly, if you feel that there's even a possibility that your property may flood, look into flood insurance. It's not as costly as you might think, and it can give you peace of mind. Plus, it may prevent a catastrophic financial loss. So I'm now really curious. Are you now afraid to move to Sarasota because you think we'll constantly be getting hit by hurricanes? Or do you think this is mostly kind of a trend and that every year it's going to be different and they'll probably go back to hitting areas in the Gulf Coast like they have in the past history? Put your comments below and let me know if this has wrecked your dream of living in the Sarasota area or living on the water. Or do you think science and the building industry might change and adjust to how things are changing? I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here in Sarasota, but as always, reach out if you have any questions. For Living and Buying in Sarasota, I'm Rob Rovnak. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.